Mei is getting nerfed, but also the devs have been back on the forums to try and explain what they were trying to talk about yesterday, or, well, I guess today in the video that I covered if you guys watched that video. Anyway, guys, I'm Stylosa. Welcome to the channel. If you guys enjoy these videos, then remember, subscribe to the channel, click the bell, that helps an absolute ton, and like the video, and also comment below. Okay, so the Overwatch community has been on fire the last 12 hours. It has been like a nuclear explosion has gone off because we got a developer comment. Now, we haven't had a dev comment for ages, and that kind of tells you the community are really gagging for any kind of information they can get. So this means when anything is said, it's going to be scrutinized underneath a microscope. Everybody's going to look at this. And there were some very strange comments made by Josh Noh, one of the developers who works with the balance of Overwatch and all of that good stuff. And this caused the community to just go absolutely crazy. A lot of really hot takes were thrown all over the place. A lot of abuse was thrown all over the place. It's just a bit mental. What I want to say before we get stuck into this is if you do want to provide feedback, do provide feedback, but do it in a constructive way. Don't resort to name calling. Don't resort to like, oh, the devs don't know what they're doing. Because they kind of do, because they've built the game, but you need to be diplomatic in the way you approach. If a developer says something you don't agree with, like there's no power creep in Overwatch, then maybe you go back and say, hey, I think there is, and give some examples. That's the way to go about it. Okay, let's get stuck into these recent comments that Josh has just literally made on the forum. So the first thing we've got is this. We don't balance solely off stats anyway, but they help us inform us when something could be really out of whack, or can give us slightly more unbiased lens when trying to identify the root cause of gameplay issues. This is fine. This is him just basically responding to the whole, yes, Genji and Soldier have got like acceptable win rates and they're doing really well in GM, when actually they're kind of not, but then didn't give us any stats to back that up. The old post did look like it's like, hey, we just balance based off stats and we think it's fine, so we're not going to bother with it. Anyway, he goes on to say, stats don't do a great job of telling us subjective things like how fun something is. Player feedback does. We can try to infer a little bit of that from pick rate, but there are too many competing factors. The most common feedback I've been reading recently is that Baptiste and Mei are very overpowered. There are some upcoming changes to those two as well, and Genji Soldier are clearly the weakest heroes. Now, that comment there about Genji and Soldier being the weakest heroes, that's the feedback that he's been reading. That's not what he believes. But what he does say here is there are changes coming to Mei and Baptiste. We already know Baptiste's immortality field, because of what Jeff said on Reddit a few days ago, is going to have its effectiveness reduced. That is a nerf to immortality field. One of the least fun abilities to play against. A great ability to use, but not to play against. It's highly frustrating. So that's getting nerfed. Mei is also getting nerfed. And these are heroes the community do speak about a lot in detail. We don't like these heroes because they're very oppressive. They control the game, yada, yada, yada. And there's a ton of different reasons why we don't like them. My point of view of Mei is very much like, well, Mei had buffs that came in for goats. Goats hasn't been a thing for actually ages and ages because of 222. So why is Mei still as strong as she was? You could revert her back and she should still be effective, but not as effective. And I think that will be totally fine. So it's good to see that. And this is him coming out and saying, look, yeah, we're making changes based off community feedback here, but, you know, what more can we do? Anyway, let's go on to the next comment. When I looked into the current patch stats, Mei and Genji are both very middle of the pack for GM, where I would normally expect players to adhere more closely to the meta. There's only about 8 heroes with higher pick rates than Mei and Genji. Soldier pick rate is low, coming in at slightly less than half of Genji, and is on par with Ashe for both pick and win rate. All right, okay. So the problem with this statement here is there are no stats. Now, Blizzard don't seem to like to give the community stats. I think this is simply because it doesn't align with whatever their community strategy is when it comes to communication. Because if they give us statistics, then maybe somebody could skew the narrative and say, well, actually, I've got these Blizzard statistics here and they're provided by Blizzard, they're official stats, and this shows this. So why don't you fix this, Blizzard? Now, I would argue that actually is really good because it would help developers in a way, because they would see stats, the community would work things out and go, hey, we don't think this is working because of this, and here are your stats to back this up. So Blizzard could sort of relate to it easier than just somebody making a random video or somebody making a post on a forum going, Blizzard, fix the game, these heroes are absolutely broke because this is my experience with them. Because of course we don't have access to the massive database of statistics that Blizzard have got, and I don't think we ever will. The weird thing with this is Soldier pick rate is low, coming in at slightly less than half of Genji, and is on par with Ashe for both pick and win rate. Now that is saying that Soldier's pick rate is really low. Genji's is low, but Soldier's is like half of Genji's, and Soldier is as effective as Ashe. So surely that would mean that Ashe and Soldier are not actually that great at GM. So this kind of contradicts earlier statements that were made saying, hey, these heroes are actually doing okay. Because this goes back to the volume of games, doesn't it? If you've played 10 games with Soldier and you've won 3, well, then you've got a 30% win rate. But if you've played 1,000 games with Soldier and you've won 3, you wouldn't win 3. You'd obviously win more. Then the stats would be, what I'm trying to say is you'd have a more effective statistics block to work from. The more stats you've got, the more games that are played, the more frequent, I guess, the hero selection is. So that would be, it's a meta hero, so you're going to pick them. So if you took Hanzo's stats and compared them with Soldier, I'm pretty sure Hanzo's played way more games in GM than Soldier, so you'd have a better picture of the power of that hero. Whereas Soldier, a very niche pick, a very super off-meta pick, really. If he wins, it's going to be inflated because hardly anybody's winning, you know? You get what I'm kind of saying there? So interesting stuff. All right, let's move on to the final part of the comment that he made. One of the perceived strongest and one of the perceived weakest heroes have nearly identical pick and win rate. I found this personally very interesting and wanted to share. My post above was intending to get people to consider that this data, while not absolute or conclusive of anything on its own, may suggest off-meta heroes are much more viable on the competitive ladder than players tend to expect, even at the highest levels. Professional play is likely another story. Now, I really like that last sentence there where he says, may suggest off-meta heroes are much more viable on the competitive ladder than players tend to expect. Now, of course, doesn't go into detail on the data set that we're being given, again, for reasons, but is saying that these heroes are more effective than you would expect them to be, heroes that we would consider to be off-meta picks. Now, off-meta picking can be strong. If you are so ingrained in playing the meta, like, I think a really good example of this would be Sombra. If I was to come up against a really good Sombra player right now, I don't think our team would know how to deal with them. This Sombra player could be incredible, could just destroy our team. And then that would make Sombra look like a really good pick, because this player might play Sombra every now and again and gets a good number of wins at whatever rank they're at, so starts to inflate the win rates of Sombra, compared to maybe a Hanzo who's played by a lot of DPS, so might be losing games and also winning games. Also, you've got people out there that simply play a hero because they think it's meta. They might not be very good at that hero. You've got all these things kind of coming in. But the fact is, off-meta picks can really throw a spanner in the works of the enemy team. If you've been on a big sort of gaming session with Overwatch, you've been playing all day, you've been playing DPS, you're playing like Hanzo, Doomfist, Mei, Reaper, it's fine. Your team will roll in the sort of standard meta comp, and then you rock into an enemy team that's running a Sombra or that's doing something completely different, like maybe they've got a Bastion for whatever reason, and then your team find it completely difficult or almost impossible to break that first point because of the Bastion or whatever, or maybe there's like an insane Torbjorn or an amazing Symmetra. You will lose those games. And will that inflate the stats? This is the problem. We don't have access to the stats, so as a community we sit around and we just make these assumptions based off our own view of the game and our idealistic view, I guess, of the way we'd like the balance of the game to go. And this is where we get all of these confusing points of view coming from. What is good, though, about what Josh has said here is the fact he's actually spoke again. The post he put onto the forums, I can imagine what happened. He made the post, it was great, it was cool, he's gone off home. And then he starts seeing things explode. Maybe he sees it when he's at home on his phone, I don't know. And then in the morning, he walks into work. I've no doubt the Overwatch dev team were probably like, have you seen what's happening here? Look at Reddit, look at all these YouTube videos, look at all these tweets. It's just going crazy. He could have gone, oh, you know what? F this. I'm just not going to deal with this anymore. What I'm going to do is just get on with my job, because I don't need to talk to these people. I've got all the stats here. I'm making balance changes and decisions based off that. Yeah, I look at the community, I look at what they're talking about, but I'm not going to interact. Instead, he comes out and he makes a post. This, you know, could be like almost like a watershed moment. And then maybe I'm hyping this up a little bit. I don't know. This could be somebody who could effectively be, I don't want to say a Jeff replacement because that sounds extreme, but somebody who could take over one of the avenues of communication to the community. And I would really like to see that, because there are a list of things we've got right now that are simply, I think, what caused the community to react in this way. And that is, we have a lack of regular dev updates. we have a community which is thirsty for any kind of information, and I'm the same. You know, if anything, I'm more hungry for this than most people, because this is like my job. I produce content on Overwatch, and when I'm looking around and there's not content on Overwatch, it's like, what do? Where's the content, guys? Even a little post off a dev on a forum could be enough for us to start making videos and talking about stuff, but there just hasn't been that for months and months and months. So when we see that, we like it and we want to see more of it. Also, we've got no idea on balanced direction. We've got no idea on what's going to happen in 2020. There's like a lot of stuff, right? And it all compounds together, and this sort of culminates in this problem where it's a pressure cooker. And the moment anything is said, if it's not what the community expect, the community explode. And I think that just also kind of comes down to a trust issue, because if you've got constant communication, then there's going to be really good trust there. You know, I go back to the first year of Overwatch, and this was a fantastic time for the game. All the main devs were active. You had like, well, I won't name them, but all the main devs were active. You guys know who they are. There was a lot of community interaction going on. Social media managers, community managers. The team just felt bigger. It felt like it was really focused on Overwatch. And of course, we know they've been focused on Overwatch 2 for probably a while now, and it's why Overwatch has been really quiet. The worry I've got is what happens this year. Like, this is good so far. We've had this level of communication. I know a lot of you guys don't agree with it. I don't agree with some things that I've said. Like, there is power creep in Overwatch, and power creep, you can categorize it into different kind of sections. It's, you know, healing power creep. You've got survivability power creep, time to kill power creep. You know, there's loads of power creep in the game. It just saying power creep as one all-encompassing thing isn't entirely accurate, but Overwatch suffers from so much in so many different departments. It's clearly an issue. So if somebody involved in the main balance of the game says it isn't an issue, it's a bit worrying, right? But it's good anyway that they've said that, because we can sort of start getting insights, start seeing what's happening, and all of that stuff. Anyway, guys, I could go on for hours about this. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I've been Stylosa. This is Unit Lost. If you guys enjoyed the video, remember, like, subscribe, click the bell, and all of that YouTube stuff. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming. Also, no, sorry, it's not. @UnitLostGaming is my old one. It was @Stylosa. Follow me @Stylosa, and @Stylosa on Instagram as well. And I did put a tweet out talking about developer interaction. Go and check that out. Tell me what you guys think about the video. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Toodaloo.